Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the session. Thank you for being here. Let's do the prayers mindfully. As we say the words, we put thoughts, attention, feelings to arouse necessaries, emotions to develop a connection with the Bodhisattva Manjushri. And when we do the refuge, renewing our refuge, amazing thing really, but we need to renew it even more, not just as a ritual to say them, but say them intently, that it becomes meditation in itself. And likewise, when we do the four immeasurables, and likewise when we do the Heart Sutra, and more so when we're listening and reflecting and developing some kind of understanding of the teachings. Not listening just to satisfy the outer auditory consciousness, the deep understanding that our cells in the body, tissues in the body, and various communities in our body, from matter to consciousness level, are all informed and reformed, and in some ways restored. These listenings are not just for the sake of listening so that we can have some other things in the future. It could have immediate result on the spot if it receives all the required faculties of attention and so on. So, let's do. I pay homage to the Guru and Lord Arya Manjushri. Your intelligence shines forth like the sun, unclouded by the two obscurations. You hold the scripture text in your heart, symbolic of the seeing of all things as they are. Those who are caught in the prison of samsara are confused in the darkness of ignorance and are overwhelmed by their suffering. In 60 ways, with your speech, you teach migratory beings to whom you are compassionate as to your only child. Your proclamation of Dharma is like roaring thunder, which awakens beings from the stupor of delusions and frees us from the iron chains of our karma. You wield a sword of wisdom, hewing down suffering wherever its sprouts appear, clearing away the darkness of ignorance. Primordially pure, your princely body is the embodiment of perfection of Bodhisattva, dwelling on 10th Bhumi. I pay homage to Manjushri, who dispelled my ignorance, and whose body is adorned with the 112 marks of a Buddha. With the brilliance of your wisdom, compassionate one, illumine the darkness enclosed in my mind. Enlighten my intelligence and wisdom, so that I may gain insight into the Buddha's words and texts that are explained. Omara Bhajana. Ho zanje jadan zoje jona la janje bado dane jazunje dage jene je baende dage ndola benje zanje droba jo zanje jadan zoje jona la janje bado dane jazunje dage junye jeba de dage dola benje zanje doba jo. In Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, I take refuge until my life reach. By the merit of listening to this teaching, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all living beings. Senje damje dewa dayan dewe ju dayan demba ju dunga je ju da jawara ju dunga me be dewa da me dawa ju nyere ja dayan nye dayan jawe danya la ne bara ju. May all living beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May all living beings be free from sorrow and the cause of sorrow. May all living beings not be separate from the bliss that is sorrowless. May all living beings live attachment, hatred, jewels, near ones and far, by living with equanimity. May all living beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May all living beings be free from sorrow and the cause of sorrow. May all living beings not be separated from the bliss that is sorrowless. May all living beings live attachment, hatred, jewels, near ones afar, by living with equanimity. To the perfection of wisdom, the Blessed Mother, I pay homage. Thus I heard one time. The Blessed One Bhagavan was dwelling in Rajgriha on Vulture's Peak, together with a great assembly of Sangha and a great assembly of Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the enumeration of phenomena called the profound illumination. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva, the Mahasattva, Superior Avalokitesha, was contemplating the meaning of profound perfection of wisdom. He saw that the five aggregates are empty of inherent existence. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to Bodhisattva, the Mahasattva, Superior Avalokitesha. How should a son or daughter of good lineage train who wishes to practice profound perfection? Thus he spoke, and the Bodhisattva, the Mahasattva, the Superior Avalokitesha, said this to Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of good lineage who wishes to practice profound perfection wisdom should view in this way. They should correctly view those five aggregates also as empty of inherent existence. Form is emptiness, emptiness form. Emptiness is not other than form, form is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition, consciousness are empty. Shariputra, in the same way, all phenomena are merely empty, that is without characteristic. They are not created, they do not cease, they have no impurity, they are not devoid of impurity, they do not decrease and increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no form, no smell, no taste, no touch, no memory. There is no eye element, so forth, up to mind element, also up to element of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, no exhaustion of ignorance, and so forth, up to no aging and death, and no exhaustion of aging and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no cessation, no path, no exalted wisdom, no attainment, also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because these have no attainment, they depend on and abide in the perfection of wisdom. Because their minds are without obstruction, they are without fear. Having completely passed all terror, they all go into completion nirvana. All the Buddhas abide in 3 times. Having relied on the perfection of wisdom, and become manifested perfect Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed, perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of perfection wisdom is the mantra of great knowledge, unsurpassed mantra, their mantra that equal and unequal. Mantra that thoroughly pacifies all sufferings, because it is not false, it should not be truth. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Tadyadam gade gade barang gade barazang gade bodhisattva. Tadyadam gade gade barang 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 Barazanga de Bodhisattva, Dadyadanga de Barang, 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 Barazanga de Bodhisattva, Dadyadanga de Barang. Zanga de Bodhisattva, Dadyadanga de Barang, Barazanga 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 de Bodhisattva, Dadyadanga de Barang, Parasanga de Bodhisattva, Shariputra, Bodhisattva, Mahasattva should train the profound perfection wisdom in that way. Then the Blessed One rose from the Samadhi and said to Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Superior Avalokiteshvara, well done, well done, well done. One of good lineage, it is successor. One of good lineage is like that. The profound perfection wisdom should be just practiced, just as you have taught it. Even Tathagata will rejoice in this. Blessed One, having so spoken, Venerable Shariputra, Bodhisattva, the Mahasattva, Superior Avalokiteshvara, all those gathered there in those words, gods, humans, demigods, Gandharvas, were filled with admiration and praised the words of the Blessed One. Every effort people make, usually this either for something that is pleasant for the body and for me and for now. Most people's, or even ordinary animals, have those things matters most. Just for me, for now, for the body. There's hardly any intention for the other, or for the mind, or in the future. Mostly very focused on the I and now and my body. So when seeking physical happiness mainly, but even to get some temporal physical happiness just for now, they're willing to put the body online to be exposed to great dangers, to gain some physical pleasure for now and for me. Any spiritual endeavor is exactly opposite. It should be not for myself, but for the benefit of others. Not for this physical temporal pleasure, but for mental happiness. Not just for for oneself, but for the benefit of others. So now this particular text that Nagarjuna talks about has been working up its way, how to adhere to the intention of doing things for others, And doing things for others basically means one has to renounce oneself. Doing things for others meaning one has to renounce the comfort of the body. And doing it for others means not doing just for today. Today's convenience, today's immediate comfort and benefit. So that is very important distinction between the altruistic intention. The altruistic intention, bodhisattva, to reach the different stages of, we were talking about the different stages that a bodhisattva progresses spiritual realizations. That realization is only possible if the intent is for others, and therefore one may have to put up with difficulties. Intent is not for now, so therefore temporarily one may have to face some physical hardships. Because it's for the mental happiness, body is definitely quite okay to put it for the cultivation. So there's no priority for the physical well-being or my well-being or now. It is that kind of intent kept Shakyamuni Buddha to be able to expose his otherwise very youthful, delicate young body. Everybody is bubbling in the 29 years of age. Senses, sensory, all desires are very strong, and they usually can get them and enjoy them. But he, instead of prioritizing this physical, sensorial well-being in the palace and luxury, he instead got out of it, put it on in the wild, exposed to the extreme weather, extreme elements, to the heat and cold and so on. So that is what is called bodhisattva. Sacrifice his physical well-being. He put the body as an penance, because for physical pleasure is no longer it's not on his mind. And his own happiness, his own well-being is not in his mind. Temporal pleasure, temporal comfort is not on his mind. So that means he's seeking ultimate happiness for the mind, and not for oneself, but for the sake of others. Yeah, and not for temporary, not happiness for others, but however long years after he might have to endure, he was willing to do that. So only with such dedication and I would say conception of the vow, bodhisattva making this, then reaches these states of various enlightened qualities. So we've been going through the various amazing. First, we talked about the various destructive thoughts and emotions, afflictive thoughts one has to recognize. Bodhisattva needs to recognize the bad, negative thoughts. Once he recognizes the negative thoughts are negative, then he knows how to spot the negatives, and then slowly learn to possess them, subdue them. And that ability to subdue the negative thoughts makes oneself to have positive thoughts, and hence the ability to overcome the gaining, seeking temporal happiness or higher rebirth or personal liberation. Those things does not feature as his intention. Maybe as a beginner practitioner, people wish to gain higher rebirth, freedom from samsara, and gain nirvana for oneself. But as the mind develops, then the priority for those, even attainment of nirvana for oneself, seems like a not so attractive proposition, because it doesn't benefit others as much as it benefits oneself. So if one feels, so what? Me getting on the nirvana shore and leaving everybody on the other side is what would be the purpose. So therefore, bodhisattva, right from the very beginning, do not prioritize gaining personal liberation, let alone a higher rebirth. what would be the purpose of higher rebirth? When itself it will fall down anyway. So the higher rebirth is no point trying to get, because the higher rebirth is only relative to lower rebirth. It's still in samsara. So what's the point of seeking higher rebirth? See, that's why how slowly the mind and then what's the point of physical well-being? The physical body is just a kind of a aging, dying, slowly decaying kind of a constituent. There is nothing enduring in the body. Body is from the skin all the way down to the marrows of bone. It's all made out of transient, fragile, insubstantial kind of biological entities. And so there is no attachment to that as I or self. Therefore, seeking any temporary comforts of those at the expense of all the above is completely not a practitioner. So that's why the practitioner withstand physical hardships, withstand sacrificing one's own well-being, and prioritize well-being of others, and very, very positive to seek ultimate happiness, liberation later rather than now. So therefore, that kind of attention that one gives to to cultivation makes oneself to become matured with the qualities such as practicing generosity and discipline and so on, which reach the practitioner to reach the first two bhumis. So last week we talked about those first two bhumis, and now today we will continue the next. Through maturation of those good qualities refers to the good qualities of generosity, perfection of generosity, and perfection of self-discipline. Because without those two qualities mature, one wouldn't be able to reach on the third. So the third ground is called luminous. Third ground is luminous. The luminous refers to bright, very, very radiant, because the pacifying light of wisdom arises. This the wisdom that pacifies one's aggression and enmity. If one has enmity, one hasn't reached third bhumi. Lots of people wish they don't have enmity, but they still have enmity. So it's pretty obvious they haven't made it to the third bhumi yet. But if you want to check whether you can reach third bhumi or not, there isn't a big sort of milestone up there that is written number 3. Actually, the enmity is decreasing. Envy is decreasing towards anyone. Instead, a lot of compassion is increasing towards the others, and it's called radiant because then it actually gives light to dispel the reason to feel whole enmity feeling towards others. So uninformed, so ignorant, mutually harmful, mutually trapping, and not liberating, benefiting anybody. So enmity gets us nowhere. Even though we might cognitively and consciously, intellectually know this, but we don't actually have yet the realization, But when you have realization, then all those past objects of enmity now becomes the fondest objects of compassion and forgiveness. And that's what it's referring to. Because of the pacifying light of wisdom arises, the concentration and clairvoyance are generated. So that the third bhumi bodhisattvas have now developed the transcendental clairvoyance, not just clairvoyance and clairaudience of the kind of ordinary kind. Some worldly meditators also have some clairvoyance. They can remember past, or they can forecast future, or things like that. But they could be, these are just worldly contaminated clairvoyance. This is uncontaminated clairvoyance. Clairvoyance generated, and the desire and hatred are completely extinguished. There's no ordinary desire of any kind, as well as no hatred. for when the bodhisattva, not just in meditation, it's just it is just the sign of reaching the third bhumi is such. So there's a I'll read a little bit more detail on the third bhumi here. It said that the wisdom of third bhumi is like a fire consuming the fuel of knowable objects. Now here, all knowable objects, particularly the objects of enmity. Once one just burns all the causes of enmity, all the wrong conception of enmity, and it just burns. There's nothing left, no fuel of cause of, no reason, no angst and no ill will towards the object, no cause for ill will towards the object. This is completely burned, and therefore it becomes very radiant. It becomes very, very luminous, and for this reason it's called luminous or illuminator. It is like the sun. The sun is very, very bright. There's not a single darkness that stays on the way of the sun. It just sun actually consumes all the darkness, meaning everything that is there to be known are illuminated. Almost that this is why the dawning of omniscience, fewer and fewer object to be known, when we are seeking ordinary knowledge, the more we know, there's a more we don't know. But when you gain this understanding, the knowledge makes the less and less is there to know, because there are no objects, no things that the Bodhisattva doesn't know. Bodhisattva therefore have a transcendental wisdom similar to the bright color of the sun. There is no parts of the sun that can be shadowed by darkness. So this stage is likened to the sun. That's why in Mahayana Vajrayana Buddhism we use lots of solar rays, solar disk and lunar disk. It's like the light we call enlightenment is light. So this is, and the Bodhisattva who attains these has now realized perfection of patience. Now he has completely reached perfection of patience. No matter how patient we may see ourselves or others, sometimes people in a very good space they can practice patience, but whether their patience is free of the four attachment and seven pitfalls or not, we don't know. So sometimes people look very patient on the surface, but deep down they're resenting. So ordinary beings don't have that kind of the realization, whereas the Bodhisattva reaching the third bhumi does. Through maturation of those good qualities, meaning through maturation of those above three bhumi qualities, now they practice supremely the deeds of patience and become great wise monarchs of gods. They put an end to desire. So once having reached this third bhumi, the Bodhisattva having mastered all these qualities, particularly patience, they become indomitable monarchs or kings that actually have no desire left. Most kings have desire, and they try to gain more objects of desire to gain or control or possess. More they get, the less they're contented. But this, the Bodhisattva who reaches that, he becomes the what you call king. He becomes king of all the gods. And then other gods and desire realm, the form realm, formless realm, they got a lot of amazing splendor and wealth of the heavenly realms, but they still are indulging in their desire. And here, the Bodhisattva who reaches the fourth bhumi excels all the above. Therefore, the fourth bhumi is called radiant, because light of the true wisdom arises. They cultivate supremely, and all the harmonious with enlightenment. Harmonious enlightenment refers to 37 factors of enlightenment. All the 37 factors of enlightenment are realized. The 37 factors of enlightenment consist of the four foundations of the mindfulness, So mindfulness of body, mindfulness of feeling, mindfulness of thoughts, and mindfulness of phenomena. Those are four foundation of mindfulness. And then four renunciation. For renunciation, or sometimes called for right effort, for right effort. Because if you have right effort, you renounce the four opposites of the efforts. That is generating virtuous qualities that are not yet generated. If you're doing that, like we are learning things that we are not yet quite there. So if through meditation or study or learning, if we are doing that, we are. So this path of this first first foundation of four founded mindfulness and four right efforts are on the beginner's level, on the beginner practitioner's level. We're always trying to do that, aren't we? Start generating certain positive quality that we don't have yet. And second, which the sixth one, is increasing those positive qualities we have cultivated so that they do not decline. So promoting existing qualities like diligence, like your quality of kindness or generosity or meditation or whatever you do make sure they do not decline, they don't suffer or neglect, but they're maintained, so that there's those two are mainly to do with wholesome deeds, cultivating wholesome deeds that we don't have, and promoting the existing wholesome deeds. And the seventh one is not generating, preventing non-virtuous deeds, preventing non-virtuous conduct that previously we have. So preventing the non-virtuous conduct from manifesting or from outputting. So that's effort goes to suppress, restrain non-virtuous deeds. And then, so that is not introducing non-virtuous deeds. And the fourth one is uprooting existing non-virtuous habits. So these four are called for right effort. They sometimes call for relinquishment. For freedoms, because each of them gains us some freedom from the trappings of the past. So those are the four relinquishments, so the 8. And then the next four is they call 4 legs of miracles, traditionally called 4 legs of miracles. These 4 legs of miracles is actually aspiration. The aspiration to attain enlightenment is such that as if you have found a new leg. And same goes with the 10th one is effort, the right effort, because the 4 relinquishments now gives you a leg of right effort. And 11th is contemplation. Your quality of meditative concentration is very, very focused, very, very sharp, and you become somewhat consistent practitioner. And the 4th one is analytical meditative stabilization. Even you are not sitting on the cushion, your mind is always reasoning, rationalizing, and scrutinizing. And so there is very, very sharp mental faculty that is in place. These 4 are like 4 4 miraculous legs we didn't have before. So actually meaning that this is more like a beginner who learns to do the 4 foundation mindfulness, 4 foundation mindfulness, as well as those 4 relinquishments. Once they have achieved that, then they actually are now sitter in the practice, and in that sit, the actual path of preparation type of meditation, then they're actually gaining these 4 new legs. And so those are the up to 12 of the 37 factors. Then remaining are 5 let's call 5 faculties. 5 faculties. These 5 faculties is just like our sense organs are 5 physical faculties. The practitioner now gains 5 spiritual faculties, and these are faith. First, he gains his faith towards the Dharma. Previously, maybe a little bit somewhat influenced by authority and belief and so on. Now, it's actually you see the faith through your own naked eyes. It's a realized faith faculty. It's like you find a new set of eyes. And again, second is right effort. So a lot of these factors are repeated, but they are slightly different in the qualities. So the faculties of right effort. The effort that you previously had it needs a lot of encouragement, pushing, maybe so on. But now this is spontaneous effort. This kind of effort is like faculty. You found a new faculty in you. And then the third one is mindfulness, which is the 15th one, is the faculty of new mindfulness. And then fourth one is faculty of meditative concentration. So therefore, your quality of meditative concentration has upgraded to the level of meditation. And the last one, which is 7th, is the wisdom. So these 5 are 5 faculties. 5 faculties. Then on top of that, one gains 5 powers. These 5 powers are all those same lists, the faith and so on. But the powers are and faculties are slightly different. So these are just internal meditative realizations that now these are not just faculties that you acquire, but you are able to exercise the power, influence of them upon others. Some people have faith to move themselves, but they cannot move others. So this is the power of the faith, that the person's faith has the power to move others. The faculty of power is move themselves, from what they used to be, maybe lazy or to something. Now, person who has attained these power, 5 powers of the meditation, not just the faculties, in addition to the faculties, then they can now transmit power in other people, transmit right effort in other people, and so on, through their spiritual, I would say, attainment. So those are the what do we call 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Those are five powers. So that takes up to 22, and then there are 7 limbs of enlightenment. 7 limbs of enlightenment, and these 7 limbs of enlightenment are correct mindfulness. 1, correct discrimination of phenomena, correct right effort, correct joy, correct pliancy, correct meditative stabilization, and correct equanimities. So these are not mundane mindfulness, because people have mindfulness in doing even harm and destruction. Now these are correct mindfulness. This mindfulness is mindfulness of enlightened attributes. That's why I call the 7 branches of enlightenment. So these are very much the wings or limbs of enlightenment. So one here, those are 7 limbs of enlightenment. So that takes up to 29, and then remaining are the 8 noble path, Eightfold Noble Path. Eightfold Noble Path is correct view, so right view, right thought, so on. So those eightfold paths. So these are the at the 4th bhumi, all of these 37 factors are completed. Until then, we might have pseudo leaning towards the right path or right view and so on, because some are only. You have to really put a lot of effort, and then you might be really thinking of impermanence and death or right view or so forth. But then when we're not thinking, we lapse back into a normal mode of an ordinary person, So until you reach the fourth bhumi, all the 37 factors enlightenment not quite accomplished. According to this is according to the Mahayana teachings, but in Theravadan teaching they don't quite divide up the 37 factors enlightenment in this way. They think these are some qualities everyone can cultivate now. I think some on a smaller scale people can, but they don't realize they don't become fully fledged until you reach the fourth bhumi. Hence the division between what the arhats cannot do according to my point of view, and so on. Through the maturation of those good qualities, so they become, because these bodhisattvas become the monarchs of the gods and heaven without combat. So this is heaven without combat. This is the Desirem gods, because Desirem God, there are 6 Desirem gods. Each of them are higher than the other in many different levels. So it's talking about their skill in quelling the arising of view, and that transitory collection is inherently existing I and mind. So there's amazing establishment of realization of no self, There's no view of I and mine, There's no trace of I, let alone mine, So it's like because heavenly realm of without combat has no I and mine, so to speak, because they have no others. They have no others because they have no I. So with I there will be other, and with others one has combatant. But one who has no I, reach the state of spiritual level of devoid of I, then of course that transcends the notion of I and mine. So the fifth bhumi is called extremely difficult to overcome. Extremely difficult to overcome, because all evil ones find it extremely hard to conquer them, They become skilled in knowing the subtle meanings of noble truths and so forth. See, according to this, even the four noble truths, the subtle meanings of four noble truths are still left to realize, One hasn't completely realized four noble truths is not an elementary teaching, as often thought to be so as a fundamental. But four noble truths are called noble truths. They're actually seen and realized by only the Arya beings. We can talk about it, but we don't actually have the realization, even the truth of suffering. Truth of suffering means we accept the suffering as the truth and the nature of life. We never complain. But everybody's complaining about suffering, so they don't know the truth of it. They think suffering is the false. Suffering is anti-life. As long as there is this resistance to suffering, aversion to suffering, we haven't realized even the truth of suffering. Intellectually, we might say, truth of suffering is prevalent. Suffering is from summit of the universe down to low. There is 3 types of suffering. All that kind of description we may converse, we may agree, we may understand, but we actually haven't seen. We don't have the Arya beings seeing. Arya noble truth. Noble truth means truth of the Arya beings. So here, on this fifth, they say that then one actually has now the very subtle knowing of the four noble truths and the breakdowns of all the 16 4 categories with each of the four noble truths. First knowing, and then first knowing the suffering, for instance, then tolerating, then there's a forbearance level of suffering. We know the suffering, but we usually resist suffering. We don't tolerate the suffering. So when a practitioner reaches to the higher level of all the 16 levels of the Four Noble Truths, each of them has not only knowing the truth of suffering, but also forbearing the truth of suffering. and then not only knowing and forbearing the truth of suffering, but subsequent forbearing the suffering and knowing. So there's a lot of subtle internal stages of overcoming the actual truth of suffering and conquering the truth of suffering. So what it's saying is that here, that the subtle meaning of the Four Noble Truths and so on becomes skilled in the mind of the Bodhisattva reaching the fifth bhumi. Hence, it's called extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. You have to master the qualities that comes from deep meditation. Deep meditation. Through maturation of all those good qualities, they become monarchs of the gods abiding in the joyous land. This is the Sukhavati. So the Bodhisattva, fifth Bhumi Bodhisattvas are sort of surpasses the what do you call the Sukhavati realm, the land of Sukhavati, and they overcome foundation of all faults, afflictive emotions and the views. So they then overcome the wrong view holders. Fords refers to people who have a lot of worldly views and worldly realization and tend to stay in deep transic meditation. And so the Bodhisattva reaching that fifth bhumi will overcome them. The sixth is called the approaching. Sixth one is called the approaching, because they are approaching the good qualities of a Buddha, So when we are reaching those first five bhumis, you're still surpassing the different Desiram gods. But now, sixth one is approaching, meaning it's actually approaching to approaching to become or possess the good quality of Buddha. Through familiarity with calm abiding special insight, they attain cessation and hence are advanced in wisdom. So therefore the meditative concentration of union of calm abiding and special insight then makes the person go further. So approaching, going further and further than the worldly gods, but almost like approaching, meaning nearing. One is near Buddha. One is a near Buddha, so to speak, of the sixth bhumi. Of course, in comparison to ordinary person, first bhumi is already a first bhumi dwelling bodhisattva, but still these are bodhisattva bhumis. They're not really Buddha. So the sixth one is called near Buddha. A bodhisattva who is near Buddha. When we talk about Buddhism, they say the Shravakas, the Pratekas are small Buddhas, Bodhisattvas are middle Buddhas, Buddhas are great Buddhas. So when you reach the sixth bhumi, then you become near the great Buddha, because you're already the middling Buddha as a bodhisattva. That's what how they demarcate, how they distinguish the stages of each of these bhumis. Through maturation of these good qualities, they become monarchs of the gods in the land of liking emanation. Hearers can not surpass them. They pacify those with the pride of superiority. So the one who reached the sixth bhumi overcomes, and the Desiram gods of those who liking emanation of others. It's in one of the name of the Desiram gods, as well as also it surpasses the Shravakas and pacify the pride of. But at the same time, that one doesn't have the sense of superiority. One doesn't have any sense of superiority, because until now it might be one is still seeking to gain higher, and therefore feeling that you are getting higher and higher. But at the sixth level, there is no sense of superiority, because one realizes one is only a near Buddha. Because otherwise, one may think I'm the Buddha. Even the demigods even the gods think they're already enlightened. So even the sixth Bhumi Bodhisattva now realize it's only near Buddha he has reached, not the actual Buddhahood itself. So the seventh is called gone afar. Seventh Bhumi is called gone afar. Gone afar meaning it's further than path of seeing, first Bhumi, second Bhumi, third and fourth, so on. So the qualities, each of their qualities is enormously higher than the former. So the seventh one is higher than the sixth, and seventh is that much higher than the fifth, and so on. And so therefore it's called gone afar, because the number of quality has increased moment by moment and can enter the equipoise of cessation. So that now this is the way where the Bodhisattva can enter into deep meditative equipoise of peerless meditative equipoise that has no match to the meditation of bodhisattvas or shravakas. One can't reach there unless one reaches the seventh Bhumi. So this is talking about the qualities of maturation. Through the maturation of those good qualities, they become masters of the gods in the land of control over others' emanation. They become great leaders of teachers who know direct realization of the Four Noble Truths. Now, its seventh Bhumi is where one realizes the complete Four Noble Truths, complete understanding of Four Noble Truths, and that's why they call the seventh Bhumi are the lower Bhumis, and the eighth, ninth, and so on are the high. That is what we call meditation, path of meditation. Path of meditation now begins from eighth Bhumi, but from the path of seeing, is the first Bhumi, and all these first seven stages of the seven Bhumis are still a post path of seeing, and then slowly developing path of approaching to become the path of meditation, but hasn't quite perfected path of meditation. So when one reaches the seventh Bhumi, now one actually completely sees for all the Four Noble Truths. So then what we have is now eighth Bhumi is called immovable one. It's the immovable youthful ground. Through conceptualization, they are immovable because they know conceptualization. There's no thought or ordinary concepts that enters into the sphere of the mind. Through non-concepts, they are immovable, and the sphere of activities of the body, speech, mind are inconceivable. Now, what they can do to teach and benefit sentient beings are inconceivable. So the eighth Bhumi is sometimes called irreversible stage. It doesn't mean that you can reverse from the seventh or sixth, but it means that the quality demarcation of the quality reaching eighth Bhumi is much more inconceivable in comparison to those previous qualities. So the eighth Bhumi. Through the maturation of these qualities, they become Brahma, master of the thousand worlds, four destroyers, solitary realizers, cannot surpass them in positing the meaning of doctrines. So the eighth Bhumi is no match. So this is when we say Brahma, it's a great Brahma, Buddha Brahma. Not the Brahma as a god of the other religion. But here, sometimes Buddha is called Mahabrahma, and the Brahma of the world is the Brahma. So one who reached the eighth Bhumi is a Mahabrahma. So sometimes we call it, for meditating on the four immeasurables, they say Brahmaviras. When you're meditating on loving kindness and compassion, your meditation on loving kindness is so peaceful, so transcendental, it matches the mind of the Brahma, Of course, when the meditation of that of calm abiding meditation. So the four immeasurable meditation matches those. And slowly, of course, it will culminate to the meditation of Mahabrahma. So that's we're talking about eighth bhumi. Because when we, as a beginner, doing meditation of four immeasurables, we are only conceptualizing what immeasurable loving kindness is, and so on. But our loving kindness is really, really measurable. We know that. Sometimes there's not much there at all to measure, not even centimeters, so to speak. Oh, there was a little bit at the beginning, but all of a sudden disappeared. Oh, with him there's quite a good, but with others there's no sign of loving kindness. So our loving kindness is very, very, very measurable in terms of time and place and seasons and retreat situations. So when we talk about immeasurable loving kindness, is reaching to this Mahabrahma stage of Brahma. So when we are praying, we are only praying. We are just renewing and pledging to practice loving kindness, first with whoever is easier, and then slowly next, and slowly next. And then when we formally formalize the meditation, then we could be in a kind of a little bit tuned up state of mind, like warmed up state of mind. Whether you can have that tuned up, how long does the tuned up stays tuned, So quite often it's out of tune. Quite all of a sudden one is crooked. One is crooked somebody who one thought was loving, and one now is exactly the opposite. So you can see our attunement is very, very sporadic and very, very volatile. So unless one is able to spend deep retreat, many years of retreat, without any ordinary cravings and interaction with the world and objects and activities, there's no way that our mental stability can hold the immeasurable loving kindness. It's not possible. We can only hold, So that's why we need to renew every day, and just the vow itself, just promise itself. It's just a promise now, just being able to repeat the promise. Even sometimes it becomes just a monotonous kind of a repetition, ritual, but there's no real renewal of the day we discover what is loving kindness. When we really understood love, it will shake you. It will shake you. It will shake you to the core of you, disgusted with ill will. Until the core of ill will is uprooted, there's no loving kindness can be installed. It needs a space that is free of ill will. Until the ill will is completely uprooted, you can see whether you have to think of some reason, objects, or incident towards who we are angry at. You've got to really see whether there's any sign of the root of that being destabilized. That almost like there's a disgust towards that, and with her aptitude and a commitment to practice loving kindness for that. Until we have that, right now we are only formally reviewing, formally repeating, saying. And when one really cognitively gears and predisposed to that, and then you will see some kind of emotional kind of transformation, and almost like an unbelievable state you could discover, unless these things happen, of course. But to warrant the happening of this, one has to spend considerable time in meditation, in solitude, in freedom from worldly activities, in freedom from worldly duties and demands, and attachments, and so on. Without that, of course, it has still a long way to go. But anyway, so this is how slowly, it says Nagarjuna is encouraging to King Gautama Putra that how slowly, stage by stage, even with those 51 destructive negative emotions, once one is able to recognize them, spot them, and slowly learn to isolate them, and slowly sort of create obstacle from them from occurring and acting and so on. And then slowly one will now learn to practice these. The ninth ground is called excellent intelligence. Ninth bhumi is called excellent intelligence. Like a regent, they have attained correct individual realization and therefore have good intelligence. So this excellent intelligence is the intelligence of the ninth bhumi. Ninth bhumi is as if you have almost you are now destined to be the regent of the Buddha. There's no almost you can see the summit. You can see the summit of your mountain climbing. And there's no danger of slipping down, and the summit is within sight. And therefore there's amazing realization, and therefore that much incomparable intelligence. Through the maturation of those good deeds, they become the Brahma, the master of 1,000,000 worlds, for destroy and so forth, cannot surpass them in responding to the questions in the thoughts of sentient beings. Yeah, when one reached the ninth bhumi, one could actually see and read the thought of every sentient beings and their questions, whatever they have. So definitely they become omniscient, because omniscient meaning they actually able to tune into the mind of every sentient being and read their thoughts, and can respond to their thoughts. When a bodhisattva is reaching that ninth stage, sometimes ordinary people who, when they're practicing in their everyday life, they have some kind of opening in their mind, That opening is no accident. Some enlightened beings reaching those ninth stages are actually responding to your prayers and thoughts. But you've been offering those prayers millions of years, long lifetimes, but only get responded now not because they weren't responding, but one has now become receptive. One now has reception, It's really good. Now one has a reception. One is not out of range. one is near Telstra Tower. You are now near the Buddha Tower. You have fantastic speed and reception. Unlike Canberra. Canberra has the worst reception, I'm told. Not just downloading, uploading as well. So now you're the tower is within reach and you have amazing reception. You not only have reception, but you can upload good information to sentient beings. They can get it. You got really good Bluetooth now. You can just straight away transmit information to each other. You don't have to wait for the fax to warm up. Remember those in the 80s and 90s. So I thought the fax was amazing. Oh, everybody can see this little paper coming out. Nowadays you don't even need a fax. Just Bluetooth them. But you have to be fairly near, huh? Bluetooth, you have to be near. It's amazing. Out of emptiness, the manifest everything. Out of emptiness, there's a blue. Out of the blue, there's truth. Then there's all of a sudden you got all the things that are transmitted into your gadgets. Your mind has now all these things. Then they remember all the past lives, all the past lives. Feel amazing gratitude to every single sentient being. And being able to remember half a dozen kind people in our life when we are in a really good state is quite amazing. The gratitude and joy that we feel towards them is. Even that is when people are in a good space, that's what they're doing, really. in a conventional level. Imagine that when you can remember the kindness of every single sentient being in all those lives, that you are able to sort of respond to them very, very from the core of your heart, and then almost like make them feel. When the Buddha got enlightened, reached this level in Bodh Gaya, the whole world was illuminated. Whole world was illuminated. Many sick people become well, blind found sight, all become young, conflict people become all harmonious, many treasures were found, all this uneven land become even. Didn't no need to bring bulldozers. There's so many things. You go to India, it's so flat. You wouldn't believe what must have flattened such a big country. It's so flat, Where there are some hillocks, they're beautiful. Yeah, not that kind of landscape. Yeah, so they're talking about the effects of the enlightened one. The 10th, which is the last of the 10 bhumis, 10th is called cloud of doctrine. Because cloud of doctrine, because now the enlightened one is like the faith and compassion has evaporated. The whole sea of samsara's plight has been evaporated. Now you become like cloud of doctrine. You will cause rain everywhere as you see fit, So cloud doctrine means because the evaporation of the faith and desire and wishes of sentient beings, you can detect them, you can feel poor sentient beings. Because the rain of holy doctrine falls. Now that's what only when someone reaches the 10th bhumi can cause the holy doctrine of Dharma to be pronounced. So because the historic Shakyamuni Buddha reached the 10th bhumi, and then the holy rain of doctrine falls, and still falling. The Bodhisattva is bestowed empowerment with the light of rays by the Buddhas, other previous Buddhas, and then enthrones Buddha in that state, and therefore called enlightenment. The enlightenment is on the full moon, in the May, we say 2,560 plus years. I think 2,500, nearly 60 years ago, that happened. Since then, the holy doctrine of Dharma is continuously falling. So it's no activities of any individuals, even schools or generations, lineage masters. It's all the Buddha that is causing the rainfall of Dharma continuously. So therefore it's very sacrilege to say my teaching, our school's teaching, and that sort of thing. It's sacrilege to say it's Mahayana school, Buddhist school, Vajrayana teachings. That it is the reign of the Buddha's enlightenment that is causing, So he spoke to one, but he spoke everywhere. He looked at one, but he saw everyone. He answered one question to a person, but he answered everybody's question. So that's what we're talking about here. So we say, Shariputra asked this, Avalokita this. Actually, it's answering your question here. Because when you think the form is real, your suffering is continuing. The form is emptiness, and he's answering our question, how should I meditate? How should I meditate? How could I recover? How could I forgive my uncle? It's like saying, how do you meditate on form? Uncle is a form anyway, so it's not a really big problem there. Uncle is only form. And the feeling towards uncle is also emptiness. And the perception that he swindled your father's savings or whatever is only a misperception, and so on. So all the answers that Buddha gave was answer to all our questions. So if we don't understand, read the Heart Sutra and meditate. What kind of rain there is to fall from that to our dried up garden, our kind of a dehydrated garden where there's like a dust ball. You know, the Queensland is like this. I just came from Townsville. They're just so dry and hot and not a sign of any rain, you know, and all last 6-7 months, no rain, you know. It's like that. It's like a drought. You know? So many sentient beings' lives are drought of wisdom showering in their mind. Through the maturation of these good qualities, they become master of the gods of pure abode. They are supreme great lords, master of the sphere of infinite wisdom. So one has now reached the 10th Bhumi. Thus, those 10 grounds are renowned as the 10 Bodhisattva grounds. We said grounds is direct translation. The bhumi is Sanskrit. Bhumi means actually land or ground. So ground is like each ground is a base. Each bhumi is a stage that actually holds the qualities. The ground of Buddhahood is a different, being in always inconceivable. So therefore, when we say 10th ground is the great Buddhahood itself, you know. Buddhahood itself. All the other 9 lower bhumis or 7 lower bhumis, 3 higher bhumis. So the first 7 bhumis are 7 lower bhumis, and 8, 9, 10th is the 3 middle bhumis, and then when you finish the 10th is the actual Buddhahood. And they're saying that when you have reached the 10 grounds. Ground of Buddhahood is different, being always inconceivable. So when you have reached the 10th bhumi, it's and then the final goal, all the good qualities, one actually attains amazing qualities, the ultimate result. This is where you're talking about the ultimate result of enlightened one. Its great extent is merely said to be endowed with 10 powers. So the 10 powers and 5 in fearlessness. So I think, we won't go into them. Its great extent is merely said to be endowed with 10 powers. Each power is immeasurable too, like the limitless number of all transmigratory beings. So these powers are, what we say, Buddha has 3 qualities: infinite compassion, infinite wisdom, infinite power. So these powers are listed into 10. And when we talk about infinite compassion, is his compassion towards all sentient beings, and his the infinite compassion, infinite wisdom of knowing about all phenomena. There's nothing left to know, and then the power is these 10 particular powers, and the power of the Buddha is. That makes even teachings today still affecting people and their minds and their lives, because these powers of the Buddhas are realizations. These are concentrated realizations. This realization has ability to affect many beings, and no matter when they come, which language they come. Anyone who lends the ear to the Dharma, they become empowered. That's why it's like electricity, you know. Electricity is called power. Buddha is a power more powerful than electricity. It's mental power. Electricity is energy power. Buddhahood is mental power. Mental power of remembering all the past lives, for instance. If you remember all the past lives, then all the good that people did is far outweigh the difficulties that we try to count our fingers. You know, and so it is no time worth wasting in in complaining difficulties when you can remember so many good in the past? So therefore, the power, 10 power, limitless of a Buddha's qualities is said to be like the limitless space, earth, water, fire, and wind in all directions. So all the 5 elements we're talking about, the unfathomable nature of the water. You know how many oceans we know is how deep and wide and so on, and there's a limitless nature of the water, and likewise the space, and so all the elements. Qualities of Buddhas is inconceivable. So that's why here Nagarjuna is inspiring King Gautama Buddha-like sentient beings, just learning to hear on the limitless qualities of Buddha. That's why they say Buddha is unsurpassable, you know. Unsurpassable meaning is peerless, is match, no comparison, no match. You can't even put an example about the qualities of Buddha. If the causes are reduced to a mere measure, if the causes of the Buddhahood and their qualities of Buddha to measure, and are not seen to be limitless, one will not believe in limitlessness of the good qualities of Buddha. So it's inconceivable. You can't. Maybe we'll just have a heart attack for a good reason. we just become dumbfounded. You just become limitless, just speechless, I suppose. That's what it's referring to. Therefore, the presence of an image or a monument or something else, say these 20 stanzas 3 times every day. So what it's talking about is that because of what Buddha constitutes, when we look at the image of the Buddha, or a monument that represent Buddha relics and so on, say these 20 stanzas 3 times every day. So it's talking about the following 23 stanzas. If you were to repeat them regularly, then these will greatly implant seed of virtue and blessings by learning how to accumulate merit. So that's why now what Nagarjuna is doing is teaching King Gautama Putra how to recollect the Buddha. Reading the Sutra of the 3 refuge, recollecting the 3 qualities of the triple gem. And here, of course, he specifically meters them in the following verses of the Precious Garland. He says in these following 20 stanzas, if you say 3 times each day, you will be able to recollect the qualities of Buddha. Going for refuge with all forms of respect to the Buddha, excellent doctrine, supreme community, and bodhisattva, I bow to all that are worthy of honor. So now this is talking about how one should engage in daily prayers, such as 7-limb prayers, and these things very much summarizes all these things. So Nagarjuna offered these verses. Of course, much of our daily prayers and sadhanas have all of these prayers. They actually constitute. So Nagarjuna has sort of compiled together for the sake of his friend King Gautama Putra to do the 7-limb practices. If one does engage in the 7-limb daily prayers, then one is actually recollecting and honoring the Buddha by recollecting the Buddha, recollecting the Dhamma, recollecting the Sangha, recollecting the kindness of parents, recollecting the qualities of the deities, and so on, and recollecting to practice the 6 like generosity. These are called 6 recollection. Recollecting the triple gem, recollecting the triple gem, and the parents and teachers counted as one, and the deities, and then to recollection to practice generosity. And this is quite also, these 6 recollections are said in a letter to a friend also by Nagarjuna. Here, of course, he says one should do the 7 limbs. The 7 limbs consists of paying homage, making offerings, and so on. So it says once you take refuge in the triple gem, you're paying homage. You're paying homage to Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, the Bodhisattvas. And when you bow down, it's the first of the 7 limbs of paying homage. And I'll turn away from all ill deeds and thoroughly take up all meritorious action. I'll admire all the merits of all embodied beings. So that is the limb of confession. One should remember the Buddha through having a Buddha image, consecrated one, and place them in one's dwelling, and then and regard them as being the Buddha in form, and then make the prostrations, formal practices of placing beautiful things near it, to it, and keep it very high and elevated, and conduct properly around it as the Buddha itself, and then try to cultivate the reverence, great reverence one practice. If one is able to practice reverence in front of the Buddha image, then it will bless our mind stream. It will make us to behave differently because we are aware of the Buddha, and then because Buddha is not only aware as an image, but Buddha is aware through his omniscience, then it helps us to remain mindful, to be respectful always, and with or without Buddha images around us. We are able to almost witness Buddha's omniscient mind, and that helps us to become that much more mindful and careful and thoughtful with other sentient beings. And even if one has committed some bad thoughts or wrong deeds, one quickly go and confess them. Not necessarily in front of the shrine. If you don't have one, quickly go and offer the confession. Turn away from all misdeeds, meaning, turn away from all misdeeds, meaning one has to recognize the misdeeds as misdeeds. And if you don't find any misdeeds, you're in the wrong place, Maybe you should belong in I don't know what realm there is. So if you are constantly confessing your misdeeds, which is what the practitioner is practicing really all about, then you will be much kinder to those who have misdeeds. Amazing. But those who do not confess regularly, they cannot tolerate any wrongdoings of others. They think the world is full of good people like him, when it's not, and therefore can't tolerate. Zero tolerance, they call it. But practitioner whose one of the daily practice is to do the 7-fold prayer, one of that is to confess. One who confesses regularly assumes sentient beings are not always thoughtful to honor all the vows exactly according to the letter of the spirit of the letter. And not because they disregard them, but due to the heaviness of their karma, due to heaviness of their stress and afflictions, and a negative environment, and a lack of positive friends, and sentient beings are struggling, and because they are struggling, not only one confess one's misdeeds, one actually is very kind to those who have misdeeds and who perform misdeeds. a sign of the compassion is that you're not only kind to people who doesn't perform good deeds, who doesn't perform any negative deeds. We don't have to be kind to them anyway. They're perfectly adequately able to look after themselves. So who we have to be kind? Kind to those who do struggle, who do falter, who do fall again, and we have to be kind to them. Why we can only be kind if we admit our own misdeeds. If those who could not admit their own misdeeds cannot tolerate other people's misdeeds, let alone practice kindness, their kindness is too rare because it cannot be practiced with people with problems. So they practice with stones, probably. They practice kindness with some other inanimate object. But kindness is with sufferings. Thoroughly take up all the meritorious actions. Forgiving other people's misdeeds is a meritorious action. It is not a kind of a lost cause. It is not spoiling them. That's not the intention. We will not correct somebody by stoning them, by denouncing them. We will not help anybody. If that was the case, Buddha would have recommended as one of the precepts. Go and denounce somebody. The more you can denounce, the more merit point you will get. You know, these 21st century people are very, very intolerant. That's what they are crying. You know, they think we should denounce everybody as if the world is full of perfect people. It's really the wrong doctrine. It's completely wrong direction. Whether it's international level or interpersonal level or whatever, communal level, the whole idea of not practicing kindness to those who commit recognizable harms. Because everybody's creating some kind of harm. They just call some more noticeable than others. And the practitioner who confesses his misdeeds are mainly misdeeds of his thoughts. Practitioners are mainly minding his mind. He doesn't have a lot of time to mind other people's social activities or deeds. He's full time. He can't keep up his own misdeeds. And he doesn't have spare time to mind other people's misdeeds, because he has to engage in this practice of daily confession and take up the meritorious actions, and I will admire all the merits of all embodied beings. Instead, the practitioner rather looks at the good of the other person and don't forget the good the person does while making some mistakes. Even the mistakes they make is while attempting to do good. And so one who is in this kind of state of mind practice these 7 limb prayers, like confession, refuge, and then he did rejoicing the merits of others. Good thing about rejoicing the merits of others is that then when we are rejoicing the good of other people, we rejoice that more frequently, so that outweighs our aversion to their misdeeds. Then we have the moral fitness of practicing compassion and forgiveness. Because if we don't have the merit, we can't tolerate. We can't tolerate when we should tolerate. We cannot forgive when we should forgive. Because we don't have the merit. We ourselves have completely zero tolerance. We have no tolerance, no merit to practice tolerance. Hence, we are very, very intolerant. So, with bowed head and joined palms, I petitioned the perfect Buddhas to turn the wheel of doctrine. Now, this is a limb of requesting the Buddha to turn the wheel of Dharma. You know, when we say, please teach, you know. Of course, Buddha has already taught, you know. But we don't know where the teachings are, you know. So because the teachings are in the language or culture or text or thoughts, and then we say that. But actually turning the wheel of Dharma, as Buddha already set the wheel of Dharma in motion, it's continuously turning, you know. Dharma is constantly turning a thought, but most people don't hear it. Most people don't read it, and because they don't have the reception. You know, they're too far in the remote. They have to dial in. So this is talking about dial in the teaching. You have to dial in the teaching. have to request to teach, you have to dial in, You have to dial in. You have to use zoom in. These days they go zoom in. Yeah. You have to zoom in the Dharma. When we dial in the Dharma, we zoom in the Saranath. We're all in Varanasi. Even though we are here, but we are zooming in to ask to turn the wheel of Dharma and ask them to live long, as long as transmigratory beings remain. Talking about the importance of the teachings. No matter what doesn't last, never mind. The teaching should come above everything. And if the teaching remains, of course, human beings will come and go. Institution will come and go. Structures come and go. But whichever group of organizations or people can ensure the continuity of the teaching, then that's exactly what we want the teaching. That is the legacy. That's the greatest inheritance we can give them as heirloom for the sentient beings. The best thing to live and promote is the teachings, because that teaching will benefit everyone. But the material possessions become cause of discord. It only harms those who receives them. Most of them, anyway. Temporarily, they might use them, and they might have very, very superficial help. But actually, it harms them. Material possessions. Material possessions are very much a karmic collection of misdeeds. It's a symbol of the drags of misdeeds, and attachment, and blood, and sweat, and tear, and enmity, and stinginess, and all that represents the material possession. If the real task of the inheriting or passing Dharma is forgotten in the process of materialism, then we have completely missed the point. So that's why may the teaching live long, may the teaching remain, through the merit of having done thus, and through the merit of what I did earlier and will do in the future. May all sentient beings aspire to the highest enlightenment. So here, Nagarjuna is dedicating the teaching King Gautama Putra and the people like us to be faithful to do the 7 limb prayers. Every sadhana practice usually have some form of most of the 7 limb prayers, like that. If you at home, when you honor the Buddha images, bow down, make offerings to bowing down, and treating that area as a sanctified area, a little shrine room in your house, it will bless you. It will bless you means it will change you. It doesn't mean it will sort of zap you and then forget to go to work or something like that. It bless you means it will make you to do things differently. It will help you to realize things in a very, very compassionately when you expose to the Buddha, in his teachings. It somehow helps you. It arms you to handle things differently. Because contact with Buddha and his images and his beautiful form, and every single atoms of Buddha's body is relics. Every single atom, small atom of the Buddha image is worthy of mixing it with the clay, which will make another Buddha. So that's how the Buddha relics will disseminate in the world. Yeah, it first started in Kushinagar when Buddha passed away, and all the 8 kingdoms came fighting for it. But Buddha foresaw all this happening, so he didn't want to die in any one of the familiar kingdoms with Buddha had strong connection with. He deliberately chose to die in Malla kingdom, where the Kushinagar. And his disciples said, why would you like to go and pass there? It's such a remote place. We know nobody there, and we have no devotees there. Buddha said, exactly. He said, exactly. I want to go die somewhere nobody knows. And hence, these people have some say. then all the warring kingdoms do not have a big say because the Buddha didn't pass in their land. So therefore, the Buddha had a vision. Even he has such a power to prevent big conflict with the warring 7 kingdoms, family, where he got enlightened, where he taught. All those people have great claim over the Buddha, those days, India was not one country, all small kingdoms and powerful in their own sense and can't stand each other. Buddha deliberately chose Kushinagar, so that his remains become relics, and relics, of course, multiplied and so forth. But by the time it's divided into 8 kingdoms, then the instructions are that everywhere they give relics get increased by themselves, by devotion. If you honor them properly, not just keep them as a possession, but keep them as a relic and a visible reminder of the teaching. Those who, they say, liberation through witnessing, liberation through hearing. By merely looking at some monuments of the Buddha, it can bring tears. It can invoke some spiritual sentiment in some sentient beings who otherwise have no way of accessing Dharma. Through the Buddha have put prayer so that those who merely sees me, those who merely hears my teaching, those who merely does this, may they have, he's made vows and prayers. So that's why when these monuments are consecrated as a symbol in presence of which then people pay homage to, then they become shrine, they make offerings to, they make confessions in front, and then they receive teachings in front, and offer prayers for all to live long, and have a habit to even to say each other when parting, don't just say goodbye, say live long. I think it's a good thing to say. Live long, and I'll meet you again when you're longer. I don't know how much longer, but definitely older. Some has shrunken, so it's not long. So, see you later means see you when you're shrunk. Anyway, that's a completely beside the point. But remain long because we're asking something to remain for a reason, I think it's a good thing to say. May you live long. Please live long. It's a beautiful thing to say. It can really lift your spirit, I think, if you say that, The whole, because it's one of the 7 branches, it just makes someone completely feel, maybe he loves me, he respects me, maybe I have something to offer. Because a lot of people really want to die, and they really are committing suicide. You wouldn't believe there's more people committing suicide than any gun has killed. The number of people who are killed by guns, you all hear, But people committing suicide outnumbers gun violence. So what's the cause of suicide? They are not kind to each other. They don't say kind words to each other. They hurt each other's feelings, and they don't feel like living. They feel he doesn't care for me, he doesn't love me, he doesn't speak kindly to me, and they feel despairing their existence, and then they don't feel like living. And huge youth suicide today, We're talking about how many people commit suicide because of people being so unskillful to each other, and not only they are falling by their own mistakes, but on top of them they're trampling. And top of them they're beating them, belting them, stoning them because they fall. We have to be tolerant to those who fall. We have to be compassionate to those who even in parenting they call it, A lot of the time parents are using the completely wrong language. And then it doesn't mean you should always praise necessarily. Doesn't mean you should go exact opposite of criticizing and praising. but always encouraging, always helping them to change and learn to change. Not put down saying what they did one mistake, and then always making them feel. And then that completely discourages them. And they don't feel like trying because they made as though they can't try again. And the suicide motivation comes from these put-downs and criticisms, bad-mouthing, intolerance, basically, and always putting cross at each other and giving a very low mark and make them remember the low marks and make them remember the high marks they never got. These things are really cause of suicide, you know. They're demeaned. They feel completely denigrated. If the loved ones and friends and family are doing that to the young or to each other, poor person has no one to go to. Out there is an even more ferocious world, very intolerant world. How are we going to prevent people hating themselves? So say, please live long. I'm sure you can try again, my dear. It's another learning curve. Curve, you know, not quite straight, you know. You have to just curve around and it'll come back. sort of, yeah. It have to be like that. So have to dedicate merit. Even somebody is struggling, which is quite a lot of us struggling, and they're really angry or they're not really cooperating with you, and you just should dedicate your merits, your prayer, your meditation. You can light a candle and may they be well, may they shift. May I not, make them feel, guilty or bad again. I haven't been skillful myself. Please let me not say like that to them again. And then light the candle. Then do the confessions. Often it's just a small remarks people make, how offended people are. We are civilized world. Very few people are hurt by guns and knives these days. But bad remarks, unskillful remarks. And so, please live long. I'm glad you did that for him. I'm so inspired that you do this. See, it's good to encourage each other. Rejoicing is recommended. Criticizing is not recommended. It's not one of the things you take up, criticizing. Let alone encourage others. So, a good place to stop there tonight. Thank you. So we can, we'll chant the Shakyamuni Buddha mantra a few times, and then what just we've been saying, imagine from the Buddha image, blessings of the teachings and knowledge and understanding enters through your forehead, throat and heart. What we have just talked about, Nagarjuna emphasizing importance of paying homage and receiving blessings and so on. So we do that for a little while and then we do the dedication merits. Shaja Mune So Tadya Da Mune Mune Mahai Mune Jaya Mune So Tadya Da Mune Mune Maha Mune Jagya Mune Zo Tadya Da Mune Mune Maha Mune Jaya Mune So Tadya Da Mune Mune Maha Mune Jaya Mune So Tadya Da Mune Mune Mahai Mune Jaya Mune So Tadya Da Mune Mune Mahai Mune Jaya Mune So Tadya Da Mune Mune Mahai Mune Jaya Mune So Tadya Da Mune Mune Mahai Mune Jaya Mune So So we do the dedication. By the merit of this, may we obtain the state of omniscience and defeat the evil enemies, the defilements. May I liberate all sentient beings from the samsara oceans, traveling away as the birth, or the sickness and death. By listening to the excellent precious mind and teaching, whatever boundless matter have acquired, may all sentient beings become precious and stainless vessels to retain the excellent precious mind and teaching. May the supreme precious bodhicitta take birth we had not done so. Where it has been born, may it increase abundantly without degeneration.